While we explore the crown jewel of 4.1 orbital assault, I want to cover the biggest problems Star Citizen is facing today. So honestly, this video is not just for people interested in the Hathor facility and exploring it, because probably right now it's a PvP wasteland due to the issue I'm going to cover. And if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. Thank you to my long-term subscribers. The big problem right now that Star Citizen is facing is the same issue it's faced for years. It is affectionately called by many in the community the murder hobo problem. I wouldn't call it that, but that's what they call it. And this is something that has been a long-term issue in this community every single time there is any new content, because almost every piece of content in Star Citizen is PvX. So it's PvP mixed with some PvE element or delivery missions, but has combat. And right now I'm exploring the Hathor facility in a Arena Commander free flight because of how the live servers are behaving, and also because, plain and simple, it's the only safe way to do so outside of an 890 jump I use a lot, or a Polaris I use once in a while, to explore these places. And those are very, very large ships. So for those who have been on the sitting on the towing the water or feeling out Star Citizen, you have valid concerns, because there is something that has been invasive and problematic for years and years. And this started with the pad ramming issues, but those issues became less and less prevalent, and then started what the community calls the murder hobos. And this is when people actually go out and actively fight every single thing they possibly can find just to kill it, just to kill whatever they can possibly find, and then keep going with zero consequences. In the game currently, there are two systems, Stanton and Pyro. Stanton is supposed to be a lawful system, and Pyro is a not so lawful system where reputation matters the most. And if you have good rep with certain pirate organizations, they'll let you dock at their stations, or they won't. And if you fight their friends right in front of their station, they're supposed to attack you. But in Stanton, there is supposed to be crime stat that is then enforced by each one of the planetary systems, the owners that have been bestowed upon those moons and that are surrounding a planet and the planet itself, by the mega corporations and the lore. So Microtech owns Microtech. I know, surprise, right? And that includes New Babbage and all the areas around it, and Hearthstone Dynamics owns Loreville and all the areas around it, etc., including the 4 moons. You get the picture. The point is that there is a lot of really weird problems in Star Citizen that aren't just gravity or items that phase in and out of existence, elevators and trams that aren't functioning, like right now as of recording, and in the live patch it's just so laggy and so difficult to get around. Many players are not taking part in some of the new events. And then when they finally do get somewhere, after spending 5, 10, even 15 minutes preparing, setting up, and deploying their ships and their gear, they then go there and then die to someone who's just there for the lulz, there to attack everything that moves. Now, one of the solutions that has been bandied about in the past was reputation should matter. And players, I would add to that, situational awareness matters as well. Players should have clear methods to be able to know who is near them at any given time that's another player. NPCs doesn't really matter that much if they're visible or not until you're right on top of them. But when it comes to a player can do a lot of havoc by themselves with even just the smallest of ships if you don't know they're there and they know you are. And also, to add to that, the intentions of that player should be something that you know about. If you see a player that is flashing red and has constantly been getting crime stats for attacks, murders, piracy over and over and over and over again, it should be something that you can see right away. So you should be able to detect them at a range, visibly be able to understand what's going on with that player, what their name is and things like that, and then what their situation is when it comes to reputation. And that reputation needs to continue across multiple servers and real world days and weeks, because right now if they ever do manage to die and get caught, they'll end up at Kletcher, which is the imprisonment facility in Stanton, which only enforces rules in Stanton, this system that this is where this is being recorded. And the problem with that is once somebody goes AFK in there and sets up in that prison, or logs back in a day or two later, real world, they can continue on their merry way with absolutely no problems. The enforcement is just time wasting at Kletcher. And again, there needs to be some form of reputation that also carries over. If you create a pattern of long-term, constantly, over and over again, doing dastardly deeds and sometimes finding time and sometimes not ending up being time in there, there is a problem. Additionally, a lot of times crime stat does not carry over build to build. This is a problem more so on the PTU. The PTU is the test environment for Star Citizen. Now, for those who aren't aware, there's actually two test environments, and sometimes there's other names for them, but in general, the live patch builds come out of the PTU, and before they get to the PTU, usually they go through an ePTU from Evocati. When things are in Evocati, no PvP is a non-consensual PvP is allowed. So this creates a major problem because all the testing in Evocati does not actually have realistic PvP scenarios involved. If everybody has to go into chat and write, "Mustang, are you ready to fight?" "Okay, other Mustang, I'm going to fight you now." That is not how things are done. And in addition, that goes without saying, you will not see what the community calls murder hobos in the Evocati PTU. Only once it hits PTU is there any consequences at all for people to seeing this and things like that. But at the same time, there is this bizarre situation where PTU doesn't matter that to many people because there's zero issues with just causing all sorts of problems in the PTU, and then literally the next build it all comes back, so nobody really cares. But that means that testing of other long-term persistence elements like CIG wants to see can only then be done in live. And then in live, there's no consequences. So it's basically a snowball of problems that then backers who come in, they get the big video on YouTube and they see the Alpha 4.1 orbital assault or whatever the latest patch is, and they get it. They see the exciting, amazing B-roll and then the amazing storyline and the elements in there or the new ships, and they say, "Oh, I want to come back and play," or "Oh, I want to join this game." And then when they get in, the experience is nothing like the video. And the problem is, again, is the community. Now, this is not the entire community. It's a subset because there is a lot of amazing people that play. And I want to give a nod to the devs who do a lot of work in the background to make sure that events and other experiences that are added again and again into these environments for us do amazing work. This is not that kind of video for me to just keep taking shots at them. What I am saying, though, is there is a systemic problem that carries over build to build and into patch cycle to patch cycle because no one wants to address the reputation issue. This should be done before any new ships are released. It should be done before any new economy changes are made. It needs to be done now. It needs to be something, it should not be years and years after the fact that we've known this issue is a problem and everyone acknowledges it, and still there is not one thing in place that adds long-term consequences to people that attack other players for absolutely no reason and then just keep doing it over and over and over again just to go attack other players and try to get as many kills as possible. It's not piracy. It's not. And I think this is something that is part of this issue, is that CIG desperately does not want to be seen as anti-PvP or anti-piracy. It's supposed to be a sandbox environment, and neither am I. I am not anti-piracy. I am not against the idea of a non-consensual PvP and orgs duking it out. I spent over a decade playing EVE Online. I know a thing or two about treachery and games and undock I'm going to use some polite, I'm going to keep my polite words going, but some of the games that people would play and taking entire constellations and the systems in them through really bizarre gameplay and meta gameplay and whatever else, right? In OO. But when it comes to this game, there is no reputation like in EVE Online, where organizations can set somebody to -5, -10, or +5, +10 to be positive. And there is no sex status that you can easily identify. In EVE, you can instantly identify every single person in an entire star system in local chat, and then be able to identify if they are the person flashing red on your overview when they land on grid. We have nothing like that in this game. And then the other shoe to fall is that players that are legitimately not, and I mean this as like not as in game PvPers are not legitimate or something, PvPers that are pirates or whatever. I mean it as in players that do not have a current crime stat and do not have a history, a long pattern of constantly killing other players just for the sake of killing them, should be able to kill that said other player, attack them, and even kill them in the name of the crime stat, in the name of it. And then there should be a lengthy process for that other player who keeps trying to do those bad things to have to be able to repair that reputation so they are not killed on sight by many players. It would be a problem that fixes itself overnight, basically. In a single build, we would no longer have this plague of problems. And I do not believe it would impact piracy. In fact, I would argue that pirates would actually enjoy the fact that they can instantly be seen as something that is dangerous, something that's flashing red, or something that has a special placard symbol, anything, whatever they want to do. But basically, if you land outside of a moon and somebody is demanding that you drop some of your cargo or all of your cargo, and all three of them are marked as like significantly bad crime stat over long term, that's a sign, that's a fear tactic, right? That's something that pirates could be wearing as a mark of honor amongst their own. And it would sign basically almost like the career path demands that you would want to be this person that's living on the edge, not even afraid of the advocacy or anything of the Advos or UEE Navy, and still operating in Stanton with such reputation. That would be incredible, right? So I think that this is a problem that has been hatched and is not fixed because of multiple issues. There is a technical issue where it would take, CIG has said it would take time for them to implement a reputation, especially player reputations that aren't beyond an individual reputation between you and a large company that's in the lore, etc., like doing a job for Hurston Dynamics and then getting a discount or an offer of a ship or something like that, or getting better contracts with them, which we've seen some of already. But that is supposed to be something that carries over into significant levels and has entire arcing missions and contracts that are like missions. That's a mission, so to speak. And then on the flip side of this, we also have the other side of this being the reputation that players to player have. And again, the advocacy could be an easy band-aid to fix this. If CIG does not want to put time into organizational elements like orgs being able to set their own reputation and be able to go through that entire process, what we would instead be able to do is literally just have the advocacy be a catch-all for everything that's a crime stat in that area. And additionally, the comms arrays need to be harder to hack. There needs to be defenders around them, and then other ones could be more advanced puzzle systems, like the UEE had more advanced turret arrays and such, and thought they were enough to defend the property, etc., etc. I think that we need to look at that and have those very, very soon, if not right away, have comms arrays harder to address. For those who haven't played or haven't played in a while, comm arrays are the thing that gives you the crime stat. So if you're within range of a comm array and you attack another ship, or you destroy another ship, or you kill a player, it will announce that to the entire area through that comm array. It acts as a relay for that entire area. So when you see a symbol in the corner of your UI where it says comma ray down, that's a sign that someone is committing piracy in that area, etc. I think that this needs to be far harder to do. It is a joke to be able to disable comma rays currently. I'm not saying it shouldn't be able to be done. I'm not saying it's not valid content. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it needs to be harder to do. And on the map for the system, comma ray down should be very, very visible, like blatantly visible from the entire system. And NPC defensive forces should be reacting to that and attempting to restore that comma ray very quickly. Maybe even have a ship that's a temporary comma ray that could be deployed or something like that. It would be interesting to see some type of coordination ship. I don't know if that will ever happen. But I do think that with the current systems we already have, we have enough there enough meat on the bone to really address it. And I really hope that these things are done. I don't think that reputation would be that hard to make long term and stick. And I mean stick as in live, build to build, it should be, even with a hot fix, it should carry over if you have good or bad reputation. And players that do a lot of good deeds should be rewarded for that and have some type of placard as well showing that, hey, I'm not usually committed to doing things like that. And even when I do PvP or PvE that's a little questionable, it's nowhere that far. I'm not busy killing the other players constantly. I think we should reward those type of things more and more, because at the end of the day, to me, that is a mature game in a scenario. Additionally, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, and this is something that's on a bigger scale, longer term, all that kind of stuff, is that right now there is very little to reward players for banding together. It's the DayZ problem. During DayZ, until the mods came out where you had all sorts of like bandits and rogues type, that kind of mod, and the other mods like that, you had no reason to want to get together other than just getting a vehicle. Once you got a vehicle, you wanted to keep that vehicle, so you work with others as best you could. And if someone else took the vehicle, or you didn't have one yet, PvP was the best option. There was no real desire to want to coordinate with other players. So killing and taking their stuff to survive was absolutely an option for almost every single player, especially on public servers that were not administered by somebody who wasn't clearly the person hosting it and things like that. And even then, the host barely had any ability to stop certain things during certain parts of the DayZ craze when it was the most active, until the mods came. So I think with a lot of these things, we have the same problems here, where there's very little right now rewarding players for banding together. And again, I think this is something that we need to look at. Okay, on the shorter term, I'm going to start digging into something that is Star Citizen focused, and also a topic near and dear to my heart, being the competitors to what this was supposed to be at the beginning of its development period. For those who've tuned in, I greatly appreciate it. I do videos other than Star Citizen often enough to be worth considering subscribing, but thank you for checking out my video. For everybody that's still here for Star Citizen, welcome to, I guess, an after hours discussion. It's a little more freeform. And I wanted to cover Crossroads of Crime, which is what the map is here, as we're flying around on this, I believe, the first open-air train system in Star Citizen. It's actually a freight train, and while it is on a shorter track designed to be a large-scale PvP, PvE type environment, you can see that this has potential for the future, especially for distro center type missions. Thinking like when we're talking Firefly, the train job type situations, it would be quite fun, I think, on a much smaller scale, to have to take things off of a train that's going over significant distances to go find it, fight the defense, and then take things off, or try to stealthily do it, maybe with some of the more unique ships in the game, like the Prowler, for example, that are with stealth components and made to be have open sides to them and such. Be kind of neat. But anyway, what we have right now is just kind of a moving piece, strategic piece of this map. Theaters of War was the name of what was going to be its own special game mode, and the map here it was supposed to be the main map of it, at least as of initial offering, and it was going to be Crossroads of Crime. And it was going to take place in a new system, the Nexus system, which we turned around, and as people in the community back in 2019, 2020, when Sean Tracy expressed his vision of this and the rest of the crew from CIG, we were very excited. Especially for those of us like me who came from Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefield 1942, Vietnam 2, 2142, most importantly, for this topic. Having a game that was like maybe a 16 versus 16 or 32 versus 32 gameplay or more in the Star Citizen environment was just icing on the cake to me. Being able to have this just loaded into the game. And then, more importantly, from the perspective of CIG, they expressed excitement over being able to have intense gameplay testing, basically Arena Commander on steroids, but with the coordination and the slightly longer term factors than what Arena Commander could present or Tank Battle could present, being able to have combined arms with a ton of information. Like, okay, we officially know that the Storm AA is too strong because it's taking down everything, and every time those teams keep it safe, they win, or whatever the case may be. In actuality, though, there was a lot of integration issues with this game mode, and from at least the understanding I got was it was taking up a lot of resources to try to make this work. There was a lot of desync issues. There was a lot of new and innovative gameplay equals more work issues, and the assets are here. The entire map's here. But the actual ability to get all these things to coordinate and work and be smooth and have that that net code seamlessness for players to fight each other, from what I understand, was a lot of work. And instead, recently in 2025, CIG has decided to take, at least in the near term, and move the Hathor to the entire CIG live servers. So for Star Citizen, the main servers, being able to use this map as a set piece for a rare new material. And also, it is an extremely desirable material, not just for money, but because you're trying to, in the B plot line, as CIG called it, have this material to save lives. Because without this special resource, they're basically the cloning when people die accidentally, and then they need to be brought back, is failing for a significant portion of the entire NPC community of the game, but not impacting players, interestingly. I think the lore argument is that players are older type of process, or it's only affecting newer humans that are being born into Stanton, I guess. I don't know, or it could be empire-wide. Honestly, still getting up to speed on the entire lore of it. But the aspect is very important, that it is a major part of trying to save what the UEE stands for and keep people alive. That's a pretty good goal. Also, you could get a bunch of new stuff from a brand new vendor, Wicklow. who is our friendly Banu who came to town. And he also wants that same resource. So players will need to make the decision of saving lives and getting a little bit of UEC or getting super cool new stuff from Wicklow. My guess is at first people will all want to get rare upgrades and ships and cool things from Wicklow. And then as you get those things, people will then turn to actually doing the missions and contracts that CIG has added that are supposed to be a big part of the gameplay's storyline. Cool stuff. It's a cool concept, but it has honestly diminished some of the best parts of Theaters of War in that you would be able to respawn Battlefield style for tickets and appear in different places, or Battlefront if you want to use that. If you don't like Battlefield, that's fine. Honestly, any of these type of games tend to have really exciting gameplay. It even would bring up some interesting factors like Squad would have, like being able to resupply different people at different positions and having to resupply bases was all being rumored to occur. So it would be very interesting to see, the Hell Let Loose and Squad type concepts of it too, and the light version of that being mixed in. Apparently none of that's going to happen anytime soon. It's a shame because this map is beautiful. As you've seen it from the beginning of this video, it's quite interesting. It transitions between space, air, in-atmo gameplay, and then ground-based gameplay, and of course they all interact. And the game, the way the concept is just like in Theaters of War, where the defenders have to defend the ground and then they eventually have to defend the station, and in between those is all of the other aspects of dominating the air, dominating space, and seeing the offense or the defense play. A lot of these type of games, you would call it like an assault style game, and apparently there was going to be PvE AI environments where players could play against AI and try to win that type of thing and get points for that as well, which would have been very welcome. One of the problems with the new aspect is that if you die at Hathor, at least currently, and you don't have a ship that has regen, you just die. Now, interestingly, as of 4.1, as of recording, you keep your stuff. So if you're dying right now, you keep the items that are on your person, and that is really making it interesting because people are running around in subscriber gear, freebie Luminalia gear, gear that was given them for concierge, that normally people would not want to wear out of worry of risk of loss until the next build, especially in live, which could be a while. But at least currently, you die, you respawn with everything without any having to go back to the body or anything. And that is very interesting. So people are kind of really enjoying that aspect. There's a unique kind of gameplay happening where campers are fighting other campers, and then they have to go and defeat the other person's respawn ship. And then on top of that, you've got automated PDSs and other crazy things that people are rocking on these Polarises and 890 jumps that are on top of the current issue of just literally killing the other players. But I think that is on us. That's a community. We need to clean our act up. I just did a nearly 20-minute discussion about how there is a problem with players killing each other for no reason, but this is obviously a good reason to take resources. Now, I'm not going to be the one to defend the use of Theaters of War being used in-game in a environment that allows PvP, so now everybody wants to kill everybody for this rare resource, but that is the way CIG has intended to make it. I don't think they could dig themselves out of that pretty easily. Like they would have to almost do forced teams and have a spawn A and a spawn B and try to keep the numbers the same. And then by the time you're done, you might as well have Theaters of War in live. And I don't know how any of that would work well and how much time it would take for CIG to implement that in any reasonable amount of time, without running into the same issues Theaters of War faced in its own game mode, for goodness sake. And bringing Hathor to Stanton itself is a problem for some players because it was supposed to be over in the Nexus system, whole different system, and on a different planet that we're used to. And on top of that, even weirder, we had Pyro to choose from, which, you know, for combat over a rare resource, that's kind of what it's supposed to be. But I think this signals to me that CIG is looking on the back end and seeing what anecdotally we're all seeing, and that nobody wants to be in Pyro. There is very few players that actually live in Pyro. They are spawning in Stanton, in New Babbage specifically, or if you really like Orison. And the occasional Area 18er, but let's be honest, nobody goes there. The majority of players are currently in New Babbage or Orison. That's where their home is, so to speak. And some players, if you talk to them, they would prefer just being in a station at all times. So one of the first things they do is try to move as much goods out of the planet as possible. And I urge you, if you're one of them, to please have escorts. And it's not just for other players or whatever else. It's also for the silly things that can happen. Like your character could just die coming down the ramp of your ship with you didn't land properly or something, and now you lost everything. If you have at least one buddy on board, they can recover the ship. And if that buddy has their own ship, and they're in the party, then they can escort you. So if other players give you shenanigans, you can counter that as well, and whatnot. That's on you. Currently, you can't just station yourself out of a station. You can't set that as your home. I think that's something that they should do in the future, but. Okay, in Stanton, before somebody lights up the comments with something like that. And if you do have comments on any of these discussion points or just feedback on the general format, this is something that's really left field for me, creating like something like this. But I felt like I wanted to get it off my chest and kind of address something that I expected to be fixed by now. I thought that they would have reputation in the game that properly set up in the most basic way that would really help players handle these things with other players. I was clearly wrong, and I would like to do that explanation. If you haven't heard of Theaters of War, or you've forgotten about it and you're curious about what the background of that is, let me know if you'd like me to do a video on it. But in the meantime, I'm going to put in the description a Theaters of War. Ask me anything back from the 2019 days of Sean Tracy being really gung-ho about this and this game mode, and really taking a look. And if you remember, there was Evo tests. They allowed the Evo to check that out, and then there was even a Theaters of War at CitizenCon, which is incredible to think all these years later. And yeah, I think that in the general, this is something people forgot about, that there was a game mode that was 20v20 and more were being pitched. Style Star Wars Battlefield type game in Star Citizen in a mode. It certainly would have been interesting, and I would have loved to see it. Star Marine, tank battle, arena commander generally, and all that. They're whatever, but I would have liked to have seen a Theaters of War actually done. Who knows how many new people we would have had in the community and new friends to make, and then see them in live, hopefully, in the, also hanging out and such. Be interesting. But at least as of now, it's not meant to be. But at least we have a Hathor to explore and check out. And I wish you a smooth 4.1 live. I hope that it is fixed by the time you're listening to this. And that is kind of where I'm going to leave it. Y'all have a wonderful night. Take care. Small behind the scenes thing here. Towards the end, I was using Toast marker that she made for me. and it was making a noise when I kept moving the cap. I did not realize it was going to be that loud and pick up that well off axis. Sorry about that. I'm trying to minimize it as much as possible in editing, so we'll see how it goes. But that's what that noise you're hearing is. Take care.